don't know.
In late 2020, we released our crag kit that was filled with the items that climbers most often need at the crag and honestly most often forget to bring with them. And one of the most popular items in the crag kit was our finger file. So we've just recently released our finger file separately, and we've added a fine-grained version. The version with the crag kit was a medium grit, somewhere around 80 grit. The new fine grit is 120. Now, this design came from a company called Burned by Wood. They had sent me these files years ago. Subsequently, they had shut down business, and I reached out to them to see if we could use their design because I just thought it was brilliant. Now, the thing that makes this design so nice is we've got several different angles, corners, and radii, I guess, here. And this allows us to work on our skin in a more effective way. This sharp corner allows us to really get into the creases, especially when there are splits in the crease of your finger, which is where we very often get them, especially in dry conditions. This allows you to get in there for that first sanding, get rid of those sharp edges. Then we've got this really tight radius that allows you to get into those larger splits, really file down, smooth down, and bevel the edges of those splits. Then this larger curve is for getting rid of the calluses that build up on your finger pads. It's a much nicer method than just a flat surface because you don't have the edges of that flat surface digging into nearby pads, nearby areas of skin that you aren't necessarily trying to sand. The other thing I really like about this is that when you're holding it and you're working on your skin, these fingers that you're not trying to sand don't get sanded. When I'm holding a rolled up piece of sandpaper or a sanding block and my tips are constantly getting sanded while I'm working on another area, and then I end up losing valuable skin on my tips. Now, what I like to use the medium grit for is, honestly, I use this one 95% of the time. It's always my first course of action. It's the only one I use for getting rid of calluses or sanding down thick areas. And when I do have a split and I want to get rid of those sharp edges on the split, I'll use the medium grit first, and then I go to the fine grit to finish it off, smooth it out so that none of the skin gets caught on edges while you're climbing and rips even further. Now, these are literally the first two files that we made. I've been using both the medium grit and the fine grit for over a year now. They sit at my table, and in the evenings I sand. My wife uses them to sand, so they've been used a lot, nearly daily. And while some of the grit has disappeared, which can be nice on the medium grit and maybe not as nice on the fine grit, they still have a lot of life left in them after a year. And of course, you're going to build up skin in the grit, but as you can see, if we simply just run it under water, it's not going to loosen up the adhesive, but it is going to get rid of a lot of those skin cells. It makes the grit feel almost like new. So no need to replace these quickly. Make sure they're not just filled up before you go and replace them. You're going to get a lot of life out of these things if you keep them clean, keep using them. So, like I said, you can find these on our website, powercompanyclimbing.com. We sell them separately as a medium grit, as a fine grit, or as a pair. You can also get the medium grit inside of our crag kit, which you can also find there as part of our Essential Elements line. Thanks.